Prince Chinedu was renowned across the land for his striking good looks. His tall, regal stature, smooth ebony skin, and piercing eyes could make anyone stop in their tracks. His broad shoulders, sculpted jawline, and radiant smile made maidens swoon, and he was known far and wide as the most handsome prince in all the neighboring kingdoms. However, despite his physical beauty, there was one problem that plagued him, a secret shame that no one dared to speak of in his presence. He had terrible breath. His halitosis was so potent that many who were in close proximity to him found it unbearable, though none had the courage to tell him directly. What spread quietly among the maidens, and why many admired him from afar, none wanted to get close enough to consider him a potential husband. This reality weighed heavily on Prince Chinedu's heart. His good looks, wealth, and charm seemed meaningless when every lady turned away in disgust after even the briefest of conversations. It wasn't long before he stopped attending public events and started disguising himself in plain clothes to roam the town, hoping for just one genuine connection free from the judgment he faced within the walls of the palace. One fateful day, while disguised as a commoner, Chinedu ventured to a stream near the edge of the village. The Oji River had long been the lifeblood of the kingdom, and many of the villagers would gather at the stream to fetch water, wash clothes, or escape the heat of the day. It was here that Chinedu encountered a young woman named Amara. She was a village girl, radiant in her simplicity, with a beauty that came not only from her looks, but also from the grace with which she carried herself. Her laughter filled the air as she bantered with other women while filling her water pots. Her dark, coily hair was tied up, and her clothes were simple but clean, reflecting the hard-working spirit of her life. She had no knowledge of the prince's true identity, for in his plain attire he appeared as just another young man. As Chinedu stood by the water's edge, lost in thought, a sudden movement in the bushes caught his attention. His heart raced as he noticed a snake slithering toward him. Fear gripped him. For all his royal training in swordsmanship and strategy, Chinedu has always harbored an intense fear of snakes. He froze, unsure of what to do. Before he could react, Amara, who had noticed his distress, sprang into action. Without hesitation, she grabbed a nearby stick, expertly swung it toward the snake, and flung the creature into the bushes. Chinedu stood there, wide-eyed and stunned, as Amara dusted off her hands and gave him a warm smile. "Are you all right?" she asked casually, as though saving someone from a snake attack was just another chore for her. Chinedu, still recovering from the shock, nodded. I didn't expect that," he stammered, still catching his breath. "Thank you," he said. Amara chuckled softly. "You are welcome. Some of my friends would have run screaming at the sight of a snake, but I guess I'm not that easily frightened." They both laughed, and from that moment, a bond began to form between them. They sat by the stream, exchanging stories about their lives. Chinedu shared how his little sister would scream in terror whenever she saw a spider, while Amara spoke of her village and the simple pleasures and challenges of everyday life. Though Chinedu tried to keep the conversation light, he noticed something peculiar. Amara didn't cover her nose or pull away when he spoke, something most people did when they came close to him. He became curious, watching her closely. She seemed genuinely unaffected by the smell of his breath. Could it be that she didn't notice? Was she pretending? But no, her eyes were clear, her smile genuine. The next day, Chinedu returned to the stream, hoping to see Amara again, and there she was, sitting by the water, splashing her feet in the cool current. They greeted each other warmly and spent the day talking and laughing. As they spoke, Chinedu asked her about her fearlessness and courage. Amara, with a mischievous grin, excused herself briefly to blow her nose. When she returned, she confessed, "I've had a blocked nose for days. I didn't want to tell my grandmother because she will make me take medicine and I hate it." Chinedu laughed, his heart sinking slightly. Her blocked nose. That's why she couldn't smell his breath. The realization made him feel a sudden pang of sadness. Once her nose cleared up, she would surely react like everyone else. He didn't want to lose his new friendship, the first real connection he had made in a long time. But Amara interrupted his thoughts, inviting him to her house to meet her grandmother. Chinedu hesitated, but eventually agreed, grateful for the company. Amara's grandmother, an old woman well versed in herbal medicine, greeted him with warmth as Amara busied herself with preparing food. The old woman took Chinedu aside. She had noticed his bad breath, but rather than shame him, she offered a solution. She handed him some herbs and potions, instructing him on how to use them. "Don't worry, my child," she said with a knowing smile. "I've seen worse cases than yours. If you take these medicines regularly, you will be healed within a month." Amara, who had arranged everything, returned just as Chinedu finished receiving his instructions. She smiled at him, reassuring him that everything would be alright. "My grandmother is the best in the village, you will see." From that day on, Amara brought fresh herbs and medicine to Chinedu every day. Each time, their bond grew stronger. One evening, as Amara handed him the daily medicine, Chinedu held her hands and said, "Thank you. I know you've been helping me quietly without wanting to embarrass me. You are the first person who's treated me like I'm more than my condition." Amara smiled warmly. "Don't worry, Chinedu. In no time, you will be fine. Grandmother said so." As the weeks passed, Chinedu's breath began to improve, and their friendship deepened. One day, in a moment of boldness, Chinedu told Amara, "I like you, Amara, and once I'm better, I'd like to marry you." Amara's cheek flushed and she laughed, though inside she felt the same. "You've met my grandmother, but I haven't met your family," she teased. Chinedu smiled, promising to introduce her to his family soon.